Jai Maa Kamakhya, Jai Matara, Jai Bhairava Baba. So today's video is not specifically about any sadhana, but a few general reflections on the Kamakhya Peetha. As we are well aware, anybody who has been listening to me over the last few years and also who has, an interest in these things would be aware that Kamakhya is one of the foremost Shakti Peethas that exists. In fact, I can even say with absolute confidence that of all the currently existing Shaktipitas, Kamakhya is right at the top because it is a Yoni Pitha, which makes it very interesting, very beautiful, and very excellent place for sadhana. It is actually a place that is meant for sadhana. It was always like that. Even if we read texts which are maybe 50, 60 years or 100 years ago, description of Kamakya Pitha is present. We see that it was a place where people who were very deep into Tantra Upasana would come there to practice their mantras, their sadhanas, and go back. It was not a place for the ordinary people, it was not a place for tourists. This was the primary idea of Kamakya, to the extent that many of the older sampradayas of Tantra sadhana would forbid or would not allow the young or the initiate or the starting practitioners to go to Kamakya initially until you have reached a certain degree of proficiency in your mantra sadhana in whatever path your guru has shown you in Tantra Marga. Without that, you don't go to Kamakya. There's a reason for that. If you see the iconography of Maa Kamakhya, where she is shown with 6 heads, each of these heads are one form of the Divine Mother, one of the deities. And each of them have their own specific dhyana mantras, each of them have their own stutis, and each mantra krama, and each color is different. Then there are 12 arms that she has. So this Vigraha of Kamakhya is very mysterious and interesting. Each of the 6 heads are also like 6 paths through which one can approach Kamakya. But it doesn't end there. One can also approach Kamakya through any of the Mahavidyas. Specifically among them, she can very easily manifest the tattva of Kali, the tattva of Tara, and also of Shoroshi, Tripur Sundari. But even in Kali and Tara that she manifests, there is a very unique and distinct flavor of the energy that gets created in that Yoni Pitha. And it's difficult to describe in words. It is something that has to be experienced by the Upasaka. Kamakya Pitha has always been a primary place of sadhana, as I just mentioned. It is not, and it never was, a place just for the casual tourists. These days, due to a general trend in religious tourism, I find a whole lot of people coming to Kamakya without any understanding of why they have come, just to see the crowds and maybe just to have a normal darshan. So the original idea used to be that you go to Kamakya only for your sadhana, or if there is somebody going there for a darshan, you go there, you finish darshan, you come out of that space. You don't linger around in Kamakya unnecessarily. So what happens is, unless your own sadhana is at a certain degree and depth, you will never be able to appreciate the beauty and the sophistication of this pitha. Sophistication is the right word because it is so unique, so powerful, so multifaceted that even for very advanced upasakas, there is only a limit till which you will understand what is Maa Kamakhya. Until that, if she doesn't want you to understand, there is no way on earth you can understand. In fact, there is nobody, literally nobody, who can say with confidence that they have completely understood the mysterious energies that are present inside the Kamakya Pitha, whether in the form of the Kshetrapalas of Kamakhya, whether in the form of the energies present inside the sanctum, the Garbhagriha of Kamakhya, which is even more peculiar and mysterious. There is a very interesting saying among many of the old tantric sampradayas that Kamakya tests you. Indeed, she tests an Upasaka, but not in the way that people think, which is that you go there and you do your japa and your meditation and your hardcore sadhana, and you think that there is a miraculous revelation that is going to happen. No. Her tests are very unique. They don't happen when you are in sadhana. In fact, very rarely they happen when you are in the Peetha also. It comes later on in your life in some of the other aspects. And these tests are important because these govern whether an upasaka will be able to go to the next stage of sadhana or will slide back from there. Very often, these tests come in the form of some or the other event that happens in your life, and interestingly, half the time the person will not be able to link it to the Kamakya Pita. This is not going to happen immediately or right on day one that you enter into Kamakya, unless you go with some preconceived notions or you try to be critical of that place. I mean, as I have mentioned earlier, also Kamakya Pita, Bali is very important and it should be there. It is there and it will always be there. This was something that Rishi Vasishtha ensured that Vamachara will be the primary method of upasana of this, of the goddess who presents, the Shakti, the Mahamaya Shakti who resides inside the Garbhagriha of Kamakhya. However, if somebody goes there with a very critical mindset and spends exorbitant amount of time unnecessarily criticizing that place of the Bali Pratha and other things, you are inviting trouble, whether it is from Kamakya or whether it is the Kshetrapalas of Kamakya. Some of the other energies are going to react with that individual for sure. So it is better that if, I mean, I can totally understand if somebody has reservations about these things, then you should not be going to Kamakya in the first place. But you have absolutely zero rights to go to the Kshetra, which is basically the house of the Devata, and then impose your own limited understanding and your high moral ground, which is actually peculiar and funny if you ask me, but let's not go into a detailed discussion on that. The fundamental idea is that if you go there, you keep your head down, you keep your reverence intact, and you are in no position to make judgments of what kind of sadhana happens there, because your understanding does not define the world of the devatas. So be very clear on this aspect. Keeping this aside, suppose somebody does not have any issues otherwise and is visiting Kamakya for a long time, is doing upasana of Maa Kamakhya. And this is where the interesting thing comes. Upasana of Kamakya is not easy. It's beautiful, but it's also complicated. Beautiful because initially, if there is some kind of past life resonance, if the right guidance is given to an individual, the initial Kamakhya upasana produces very nice results. But it is only at the higher stages, after a certain point of visiting Kamakya a few number of times and going beyond to a certain stage, that is where her tests come into an individual's life. And these tests are not going to be so easily perceivable unless the mind is very uh, tuned, or should I say that there is a very clear discrimination power acting in the mind. Because these tests will not come when you're doing your sadhana. They are going to come to you in some of the other aspect of life which you will normally not be able to link to sadhana or the deity or anything. And how one behaves during that test, whether one succeeds or fails in that moment of the test, when that happens, in whatever situation that she puts the upasaka into, will determine whether a person is able to go higher into the path of Kamakya or remain stuck there, or in many cases that I've observed, be completely thrown off gear so that they never come back to Kamakya Pita again. I have seen that happening to many people. Initial 1, 2, 3, 4 years, there's a lot of josh and there's a lot of bravado inside, and oh, I'm going to Kamakya, I'm doing this, I'm ye wo bahut kuch ho raha hai. Then suddenly she puts a simple test in their life and immediately everything keeps, all the facade, all the bravado, everything completely crumbles down. And if the mind is weak, if the person has a psychological or mental weakness already present there, especially people with a lot of superstitious minds, with a weak adhara, mind and body is not steady enough, for them the reaction can be quite severe, to the extent that they fear Kamakya. I have seen that happening to people also. So initial stages, if you go to Kamakya Pita, you go there, have darshan, sit down, meditate. All that is nice. It's like a big shopping mall. Everything is beautiful. There's so many things, so many deities, so many Mahavidya temples, so many peculiar kind of sadhaks, sadhus, many people coming there doing their own stuff. It looks like you have finally arrived at the most exciting place of Tantra sadhana. Till then, it is fine. But once you start your sadhana, once you decide that no, I have to go higher into the Kamakhya path, two things are very, very, very crucial. One is that she will test you as you start going higher, and you need to be prepared for the test. And there is no preparation that is sufficient. It is not like your human exams that 10 days before the exam, you know that the test is going to be there, and so you prepare and mug up certain questions. No. The whole process of the sadhana that you're doing is rebuilding your energies so that you are able to cross the barriers that she sets on your path in order to test whether you have the fitness for the next stage. And these, mind you, what I'm telling you, these are not things that you will find easily in books. These are things that come to an upasaka only when they have personally gone through these phases. The second very important thing that is required in Kamakya sadhana is the blessings of a good, capable guru. And by capable guru, I don't mean just having a diksha. That is only one stage of it. By that, it doesn't mean much. I have seen innumerable people going and taking diksha and then doing nothing about it. It doesn't work. If she decides that no, you cannot progress, no amount of diksha is going to allow you. Diksha is important. It's not that it is not important, but it is not the only thing. There are many other factors. Most importantly is that if you have a competent guru and the guru's guidance is there in your life regarding the sadhana, and there is strong faith, and the guru himself or herself has blessings of Kamakhya, then certain amount of the Shakti of Kamakhya can flow through the guru into the Upasaka and help him or her, especially during the times of these tests that she puts an Upasaka through. Make no mistake about it. There is never a person who has reached higher stages of Kamakya sadhana without undergoing these tests. Either if if you have never been tested, that means she is not interested in your progress. In this lifetime, at least, you will not be able to progress beyond a point. You will always be very nice and happy, and this going to Kamakya will be like another spiritual tourism. That's all beautiful, but sadhana is a different matter. Once you cross these tests, and they can come at any time, by the way, there is no fixed niyama. Nobody can put a rule to that. It is her will entirely. And as I repeatedly mentioned, the tests may not even come when you are in Kamakya. They can come anytime in your life, in some absolutely unrelated or maybe a non-religious aspect of your life, and how you behave in that moment organically. Because if your energies have changed through sadhana, then there is a certain kind of pattern in which you will behave. Depending on that behavior, you realize she decides that whether the Upasaka can go to the next stage, or he or she is not fit for going beyond whatever stage they are in. The iconography of Maa Kamakhya tells us a story, and I have mentioned this before also, but it's important to reiterate this over and over, because if you are doing Kamakhya Upasana, it's good to understand these iconographies. So there is a lion, on that there is a Preta, and on that there is a lotus, and on that there is Kamakya. So that lion is regarded as Vishnu. Vishnu, why? Because he is the god of Dharma. He is the one who comes down and he tells us and he shows us how exactly one should perform one's dharmic duties, how one differentiates between dharma, adharma, and how one goes about boldly with absolute courage and confidence in spite of difficulties, like the lion of dharma. One enters into the path of that which has to be done regardless of whatever is the obstacle. That attitude itself, to be able to stick to dharma in spite of difficulties, requires a certain degree of strength and courage. And that strength and courage is represented by the lion, which is the first, which is the asana. She has three asanas, which is the first one. So somebody who has not passed through this phase of being a lion of dharma will not be able to go higher. Make no mistake about it. Kamakya, it's one thing to do puja. Puja janna itna kathin nahi hai. If you roam around, hang out with people who know sadhanas, tantra sadhana, they can teach you Kamakya puja. That's one aspect. You can become a good purohit with that. Sadhak, upasaka, so that you get actual blessings of the deity, so that the deity remains with you. You have a direct experience, anubhuti of the Devi, and not just once, but over and over. That requires much more than just knowing how to do puja of the Devi. Otherwise, every single priest would have been a Siddha by now. That doesn't happen. In fact, her Maya is strongest among people who do her seva. That is why you will see so many people are so concerned about money, even though they're spending hours inside the Garbhagriha of the Devis and the great Mahavidya temples inside them. But the mind is fixed on how do I earn 10 rupees more. So what has happened is the gunas have become completely divorced from the guna of birth as well as the guna and the tendencies through the karmas and the activities. So the dominant guna in the person's mind is not that of the uh, uh, of the higher varna, but more of the transactional mindset. And with that, you will never progress in sadhana. That much is certain. You will remain where you are. Perhaps that's the play she does. When she decides that a person should not attain siddhi, she ensures that the person is always close to her, maybe born in Kamakya, staying there, working as a priest. On the other hand, if she wants to give her blessings and siddhis to somebody, she ensures that the person stays away from her and only takes some effort, time, some juggling of resources, and special striving, cheshta, to reach her, to be able to do sadhanas there and go back and imbibe that energy and then cultivate it over time, decades and decades. So, first, there is the lion of Kamakya. You have to become that, the lion of Dharma. And that is where your first test will come to any upasaka. Either you fail or you pass. If you have failed, then you can carry on wherever you are for ages and ages, like that proverbial bull which keeps roaming around without knowing that it's not going anywhere. So you'll keep doing that till end of time. So after the stage of the lion, which is like the first tests of the upasaka that come. And again, as I mentioned, it can come at any time. You do not have a time frame. It's entirely her will. It could be in 6 months, or it could be after 6 years, or it could be after 10 years. It depends on the Purva Samskara of the Upasaka. It depends on what she has planned and thought of, whether she wants that Upasaka to go higher or not. There are a lot of people who are not meant to go higher beyond a point. For them, there is no problem. You can do whatever you want till the time you don't want to do that. So it really doesn't matter. But I'm talking about somebody who is supposed destined to go very high in Kamakya sadhana, in the upasana of Maa Kamakhya. The next stage is that of the Preta, which is Sadashiva in the form of a Preta. So this is basically the stage where you attain to detachment inside, complete detachment. There is no craving for anything. That is why it is like he's like a dead body. He's lying there. There is absolutely no desire for anything. You don't want. The six chakras have already been purified. The karmas of the six chakras of an individual have been purified by working for dharma in the earlier stage. So therefore you come to that stage where especially the lower three chakras are not going to bother you. There is nothing that you want, neither money, nor achievement, nor success. All these are, you've absolutely gone beyond it, and there is complete detachment inside. That itself, that detachment is signified by the form of Shiva being in the form of a Preta, as a Pretasana. Once the detachment has become integral to the Upasaka, there is no craving for anything. All that is finished. Then there is an awakening of a lotus from the Manipura. If you see the Manipura chakra, or the navel of the Shwet Preta, there is a lotus that comes out. So there is a new creation. This lotus is the Kundalini Shakti that awakens only after these two stages have been crossed. This lotus is also Brahma. Brahma is the creator. So basically, there is a new creation that is starting. Your old self, the one that you are born with, your basic tendencies that you have acquired over life, your common sense, everything, is insufficient to handle the power of Kamakya. So one has to go through these karmakanda processes, these transformative processes, until one reaches the stage where there is a new creation that starts after you have finished your stage of working for dharma. You have finished your stage of being completely detached from everything, almost like a dead body which has no desires for anything. Then this new creation is born out of that fertile soil. On top of that creation sits Kamakya, who is none other than Siddhi, accomplishment of the process. So until these steps have actually taken place in an Upasaka's life, no amount of mantra japa, no amount of karmakanda is going to give you Siddhi of the deity, and no amount of meditation also. This is very interesting. So just sitting and meditating on Kamakya, that's beautiful, but that doesn't guarantee you success in the process, in the path of Maa Kamakhya. The iconography is not randomly designed. These are iconographies that are impressed on the minds of great acharyas and rishis by the devata herself, so that in and through that imagery you realize what is the context, what is the energy that she holds. So it is only in these three realms, once you have crossed these three stages, that of Vishnu, that of Shiva, and that of Brahma, only then is the Upasaka fit to attain the success in the Devi Upasana. And if these stages are truly and properly crossed, remember, you cannot cross them in a very conscious way, in the sense that you have prepared for the sadhanas. It doesn't make any difference to her. When she puts the test, you will not even know that the test is coming. It's only later that one realizes. In fact, if you go into the Garbhagriha of Kamakya, you will see one very interesting thing. The moment you step inside the Garbhagriha, because of the chaos that is prevalent there, first is that very little light, there'll be a lot of people, you hardly get 15-20 seconds, or maybe 2-3 minutes to just touch the water. And if there are some offerings you have to make, and then you have to again go and touch Mahalakshmi, the Matangi, and Kamalatmika Mahavidyas, and then come out everything. So it's kind of a chaotic situation around there. Your mind normally turns blank. You might have 10 different prayers beforehand, but the moment you enter the Garbhagriha, all of that can get out of your mind. In those few seconds, you just complete the processes and then come out. Similar thing happens to a Upasaka when he or she is put into the test. You will not know that it is a test. Your basic instincts will kick in, and depending on whether you have the courage to go forward or run away if the energies are not correct, and accordingly, whatever way the Upasaka behaves determines how she is going to behave with the Upasaka after that. This is a very crucial part of Kamakya sadhana. Remember this, Kamakya was also the Peetha where the great Matsendranath used to stay. In fact, the second most interesting thing about Kamakya, and I was coming to this point anyway. See, all other Peethas, famous Peethas, you will have one of the two great saints who have been here, like legendary saints. In Tarapit, you have Bhamakya. In Dakshineshwar, you have Ramakrishna. Like this, all places will have some of the other great saints. Who is that great saint of Kamakya who has actually stayed in Kamakya Pita and attained to such tremendous spiritual heights that the whole world is aware of him? If you think about it, there is hardly one or two names, or not even that. You can't even think of anybody in recent times. The last great Upasaka of Kamakya, who a Siddha Purusha used to stay in Kamakya, whose name is known even till now and revered across different sampradayas, is Matsendranath. He was uh, the first of the Naths who learnt Tantra Vidya listening directly from Shiva and Parvati. And then he came to Kamakya and he stayed there, and he was taught the Tantras by the yoginis themselves. And he was an expert in Vamachara Tantra. Remember that Kamakya is always a Vamachara Pita. You can do your sadhanas in sattvic manner, no problem with that. However, what she likes is Vamachara. Make no mistake about it. In fact, once in a while I find some super gyanis giving knowledge that it is only truly one should do only Dakshinachara and not Vamachara. That's all nonsense. I mean, Dakshinachara is fine in its own place, but Kamakhya is a Vamachara Peetha. It was a Vamachara Peetha. It will always remain so, because she likes this Paddhati of puja. It is her will that makes Vamachara succeed so easily in Kamakhya. Other places, other niyama, Kamakhya's niyama. You have to follow that. So, if you are a Dakshinachara, you can do your sadhana in that, but do not be in this sanctimonious mode that, oh, I am doing something fantastic by doing Dakshinachara. No. In fact, what you are doing is lesser than what she ideally demands of you. But she is kind enough, so she allows your Dakshinachara upasana also to succeed to a degree. To a degree, because complete Siddhi of Kamakhya will require Vamachara. It is impossible without that. Impossible. ये हो ही नहीं सकता है. Make no mistake about it. Again, get out of all sorts of wrong advices that you might have received from various other places. Initial stages, it's good, but actual Siddhi of Kamakhya, which is the rarest of all things, cannot come by Dakshinachara method. It has to be Vamachara, because that is what she really likes, the Devi in Kamakya. So, only when these three stages one has crossed, then only the Upasaka is fit to attain complete success in the Upasana of Kamakya. As one goes deeper into Maa Kamakhya's abode in her sadhana, one learns the first rule is that one cannot, the secrets of the Kamakhya Pitha of her sadhana is kept hidden from people. It is kept even from the Upasakas also. Only somebody who is fit for it will be revealed those secrets by her in her own judgment, in her own will, in her own time. Otherwise, she remains those aspects of Kamakhya remain hidden from everybody else, because it is not meant for the public. It is not meant for people who are not fit to do that sadhana. It is only for those who have the capacity, whom she has chosen, that you can succeed in this. However, having said all that, some amount of blessing of Maa Kamakhya can be attained by anybody. In fact, she is extremely active in this Kali Yuga. And as time goes on, as decades pass, Kamakhya will become the primary Shakti Pitha in India. Kamakhya's popularity will reach absolute peak, almost the way we look at, say, Tirupati and other places. That type of peak is going to come for Maa Kamakhya's abode. But remember, the more it becomes peak, the higher aspects of sadhana will still remain hidden from people. Only one in thousands and thousands who has the capacity, who has blessings of Maa Kamakhya and blessings of a competent guru. Remember this thing, any and every guru cannot take you. So therefore, it is important to understand that to attain to the highest stages of Kamakhya sadhana is not at all easy, and it is very, very tough. It is tougher than attaining Siddhi of Kali. It is tougher than attaining Siddhi of Tara, which itself is so difficult, of Mahavidyas. Because Kamakya is Nirakara and she can manifest as any of the Mahavidyas. So, two things are definitely needed. One is her blessing, which comes to Purva Janma Samskara, and the other, the blessings of a very competent Guru who has himself or herself attained to perfection in Kamakya sadhana. Only then there is a chance that one can go ahead and reach the higher stages. However, that said, doing the Kamakya Stuti, and remember that it's not that you have to do a lot of complicated mantras. Of course, mantras and all that are there. But apart from mantras, there is these other things, these tests, these paths, these changes, transformations that one has to effect in and within oneself through one's life experiences, which are equally important in order to succeed in Kamakya sadhana. The Stuti of Maa Kamakhya is therefore one of the best ways to do sadhana. It is not complicated at all, but as one keeps doing it, and especially if one does the the specific Kamakya sadhana that I mentioned of Tuesdays, I already have started receiving emails from people who have tried that, and very, very interesting results they have started experiencing. So if you do that, even with the Kamakya Stotram, it connects you to a degree of Maa Kamakhya's energy, and that is good enough to act as a blessings in your life. Of course, for these 5 or 6% of people among all the lakhs and lakhs who are watching, who are connecting to Maa Kamakhya, who are meant, those few who are meant to attain to the highest stages, they will, of course, find their own guidance as and when she decides to send the right guru for them. And end of this whole thing, this video has already turned long, but it is important to mention these things so that if somebody is really interested in Maa Kamakhya sadhana, they should understand the nature of the Devi that you are trying to access. And this is where Bhairava Sadhana becomes very important, because Bhairava creates the Adhara, something I've repeated many times. As you keep doing Bhairava Sadhana, he makes your mind and body steady. Once the mind and body become steady, a degree of fearlessness comes in. That is where you are able to cross the first stage of the Kamakya sadhana, which I mentioned, is the stage where one becomes like the lion of Dharma. You will be tested, there will be difficulties, but as we know the lion to be a king of the jungle, an animal that portrays the sense of fearlessness, of courage, that aspect is very important. There is going to be obstacles, but one goes beyond these obstacles and fights with those obstacles to do that which is the right thing for dharma. That is where Bhairava Kripa is most important. If he is kind and an upasaka, and if he wants to teach you how to do Bhairava, how to do Kamakya sadhana, Bhairava can teach a person how to go beyond first stage of the Simha and then the next stage of the Preta, where you are completely detached from everything. And then finally, by his blessings, one can even establish that new awakening of the Kundalini in the form of a lotus, so that one realizes truly what this Mahashakti we call Kamakya actually is. Bhairava is the path, Bhairava is the guide, Bhairava is also the divine guru who teaches how to approach and reach Kamakya for those people who are meant to attain success. And that is why the same in all the tantras you see, it is Bhairava who is speaking the tantras to Bhairavi. In the whole Vamachara, whole Kolomarga, it is Bhairava himself who is the guru. It's Bhairava who is the one who knows all the tantras. He's the one who knows all the mantras. He's the one who knows all the prayogas. He's the one who has the power and the fearlessness needed, who is free from all the pashas of the chains. Because the first rule of Tantra, you'll see that there are 8 chains that bind our consciousness. Ashtapasha. Once those pashas, anybody who is bound by the pashas is a jiva. And one who is freed from the pashas becomes Shiva. This is the first principle. And it is Bhairava who frees you from the pashas. It teaches you how to be free from the pashas, how to break down these chains. And these chains are very interesting, by the way. I mean, in the older Tantra specifically, one of the primary chains it mentions, see, there's Lajja, Grina, Bhai, these things are mentioned. Apart from that, there are 2 very interesting pashas that mentions. One is Kula. Kula means your family. There are people who have tremendous amount of pride that have born into this so and so family. My father was this, my grandfather was this, etc. Tantra says that if you have that pride inside you, you cannot progress. There is a chain. Next, Jati. Believing that I belong to so and so caste, therefore automatically I am very high up. You cannot attain liberation if the sense of Jati is too strong inside an Upasaka. Tantra is very clear. These Ashtapashas are very, very crystal clear. And in the Kularnava and the other Tantras, which is one of the most legendary Tantras, it makes it very categorical that those who are afflicted by these Pashas, who are bound by these chains, their consciousness is bound to these things, they cannot progress. So the whole process of sadhana is to de-entangle ourselves from these Pashas. It is only at the highest stages, beyond the Pashas, that we have the presence of accomplishment or Kamakya sitting right on top of that lotus inside the Garbhagriha of the Kamakya Kshetra, in the most mysterious form, in the most unbelievable form. Whatever way you understand her, it's still not enough. There is still more things. Even if somebody attains success in a sadhana, still there are more things that he or she can comprehend. There is no depth, no limit to what is there in Kamakya. She doesn't belong to one individual. She doesn't belong to one state. She doesn't belong to one linguistic group of people. She belongs to anybody who, in the most free mind, approaches Tantra sadhana. She is the ultimate Devi of Tantra sadhana. She is the Siddhi of Tantra Sadhana. She is the womb from which even the Mahavidyas have been born. So you can understand how fantastic and fascinating this state is. And that is why this organization, this trust, this kula is called Kamakya Bhairava. You go to Kamakya, but the whole path, the engine of that path is Bhairava, without whom you cannot enter into the domains of the truly esoteric domains of Maa Kamakhya. I hope this discourse is useful to people who have been doing the sadhanas of Maa Kamakhya and who have a general affinity towards her. Jai Maa Kamakhya, Jai Bhairava Baba, Jai Matara.